Hi, I'm sitting in my office, as you can see, where I'm producing 3 short videos that apply in your case that will serve as a foundation for a one-on-one consultation we can have in the very near future, especially once I see the 7-day diet history. So the first video, this one, is going to address the LDL cholesterol story. This applies in your case. The second video is going to be about blood sugar, weight loss, and cheat foods, how to cheat so that you don't feel so restricted. And the third video is about homocysteine as it applies in your particular situation. So let's start with the LDL cholesterol story. So having a high LDL cholesterol is a very well-documented major risk factor for heart attack, stroke, and other cardiovascular disease problems. So it's an important issue. So your LDL cholesterol presently is 120 milligrams per deciliter. A safe level of LDL cholesterol to guard against heart attack and stroke and vascular problems is to have an LDL that's below 70 milligrams per deciliter, or at least get it down to 77 milligrams per deciliter. That's the first step into the safety zone. So we want to go from 120, ideally down to 70, or at least down to 77. The question is, how does LDL become high in the first place? So to understand this, you have to just get a grasp of some basic digestion and metabolism. So here's what happens. When you eat foods that contain saturated fat and or trans fats, they get absorbed from the gut and they're going to travel through the bloodstream, and they're going to get incorporated in the gut during digestion into this little carrier vehicle called the chylomicron. Don't worry about that word. But that chylomicron is carrying the fat through the bloodstream on its way to the liver. But while it's going through the bloodstream, fat cells can take some of that saturated fat and trans fat and put it into the fat cell. The fat cell will get larger, so your fat mass will increase. But muscles of the body also like to burn fat when they're doing light to moderate activity. And I think this is one of the reasons why in Europe, where people tend to have some fattier foods, they tend not to have as much cardiovascular disease. They walk after their meals before the fat can even get to the liver to turn on cholesterol production. They're already taking the fat out of the bloodstream, and the muscles are already starting to burn the fat. So most of the saturated fat and trans fats, though, traveling through the bloodstream in the chylomicron are going to end up getting to the liver through the chylomicron delivery system. And once they get into the liver now has a problem. Because if the liver stores the saturated fat and trans fats, then you end up with fatty liver degeneration, which is becoming a very common problem as we have more type 2 diabetics and overweight people in our society. The liver's having trouble processing all the fat people are eating, and the liver, we're getting a lot of fatty liver problems that can then lead to cirrhosis and even liver cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, which is on the increase. But you're not in this super high risk range for that at all. Your blood levels of your liver enzymes are completely normal, so you're not showing any evidence of fatty liver degeneration. But in your case, when that fat reaches the liver, those fats in particular, the liver says, what I need to do is to ship those fats over to the fat cells so fat can be stored, and into the bloodstream so the muscles can burn the fat. There's 600 muscles in the body that love to burn fat in a steady state. They're saving their carbohydrate stores for more high-intensity activity, if you will. Even the heart muscle loves to burn fat if it can get access to it. So the liver then has to package that fat up and send it out into the bloodstream, but it can't just release it into the bloodstream because, oil and water don't mix. So the bloodstream is a water medium and fat is an oily substance. So the liver has to package the saturated fat and the trans fats in a way that it can dissolve in the water medium of the bloodstream. So in order to do that, it has to turn on cholesterol production. Cholesterol becomes a transport vehicle to transport the fat out of the liver and bring the fat to the muscles and to the fat cells. And then the muscles and the fat cells can take that saturated fat and trans fat, can store it in the fat cell. Muscles can burn the fat as a source of energy. And that sort of cholesterol fat leaving the liver is in the form of it's like an egg, really, and the outer surface has the outer shell would be protein, but then you have the fat and the cholesterol inside that egg. So the fat gets taken out by the muscles and the fat cells, and then what gets left behind, and once the fat is removed, is this egg that's full of cholesterol, and that is the LDL cholesterol that we talk about. So it's not that all of that LDL cholesterol is bad. The body needs some of that LDL cholesterol. So all the cells of the body have receptors. They have like little indentations where that LDL cholesterol A can fit into the receptor. And then the receptor will pull that cholesterol into the cell. And all the cells of the body will use some of that cholesterol to make it their outer skin, the cell membrane. So all the cells need some cholesterol. The testes and the ovaries and the adrenal glands use that cholesterol to make steroid hormones. That's where testosterone comes from. Cortisol, cortisone, pregnenolone, aldosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all the steroidal hormones are made from that cholesterol. And as the liver picks up some of that LDL cholesterol, it'll convert that cholesterol into bile or bile acids. And then when you have a meal that has fat, the liver secretes bile acids into the gut to help digest the fat. You need to be making bile all the time. And you know that when sunlight hits your skin, you make some vitamin D. And that's because some of that LDL cholesterol goes to the skin cells, and it's 7-dehydrocholesterol upon exposure to sunlight that becomes vitamin D. So cholesterol becomes vitamin D. So it's like, well, we need some of that. Well, we do. But once all the cells of the body have all the cholesterol they need, they close the door. They stop making those LDL receptors, so no more LDL cholesterol can get into the cell. And the extra LDL cholesterol that's floating through the bloodstream that the cells can't use stays in the blood vessel wall and gets deposited into the wall of the artery. And this is where it becomes dangerous. So as you build up LDL cholesterol beyond what your body needs, once your LDL cholesterol is above 70 milligrams per deciliter, you're way beyond what your body needs. The excess LDL stays in the bloodstream, and it lodges in the artery wall through a very sophisticated process that we won't get into here. And the artery starts to get narrower, and you get progressive narrowing over time that can eventually lead to a blockage. It's a very silent type of pathology. You don't feel it happening, like high blood pressure. And then one day, all of a sudden, the person's having angina or a heart attack. They're having a stroke. They're having peripheral vascular disease. They're diabetic, and they have to have their toe chopped off from gangrene. So the thing that complicates this is that if blood pressure is a little bit high, as it is in your case, high blood pressure strips away some of the lining cells in the blood vessel wall and creates a site where the cholesterol will actually be deposited. So the combination of high LDL cholesterol with even just moderately high blood pressure greatly increases the development of plaque in the artery wall. Then having high homocysteine, and your homocysteine is beyond what is considered to be safe, homocysteine damages the lining cells of the blood vessel wall as well and creates a further site for cholesterol to also get deposited. And then as that blockage occurs, platelets in the bloodstream become sticky. They can form a final plug, and that's how heart attacks occur. So the thing is, having platelets that are sticky, these sort of clotting blood cells, if they're excessively sticky, then there's a greater chance they will form that plug. And what makes platelets really sticky? High saturated fat diet, high trans fats in the diet, high homocysteine, high blood pressure, lack of aerobic exercise, and being a little bit overweight. So you start to see all of these risk factors. They sort of create a profile where the risk can be significant. And that's why in your case, I'm a little bit concerned. So the other thing to note is that some people can have a high LDL cholesterol for genetic reasons. So let's say your body didn't make the LDL cholesterol receptor, just because you have an inborn error of metabolism. So what happens then is the LDL cholesterol can't be picked up by the cells, and the LDL is naturally going to be very high. But normally in a case like that, you would see a very high total cholesterol. You'd see a high total cholesterol between 280 and 500, even up to 1,000 milligrams per deciliter. Your total cholesterol is not that high, it's only 190. So, and most of that the total cholesterol in your bloodstream is actually the bad cholesterol, the LDL, which tends to indicate more of a dietary problem than one that's highly genetic. So you say, so you know, what foods could I possibly be eating that would be turning on the cholesterol production in my liver to such a degree that my LDL cholesterol would be high? Well, these are the main, I haven't seen your diet history yet, but these are the main culprits. Any foods that contain any type of beef or pork are going to raise LDL cholesterol. The same is true for cheese. Now, because I go to a lot of Indian restaurants, I like Indian food. So I'm aware of a lot of the culinary practices. So any kind of food that is a paneer dish, like sag paneer as an example, that's a very, very high-fat cheese that will raise LDL cholesterol. I don't know if you eat it. I'm just putting it on the table in case. Pastries, danishes, loaded with that kind of fat. Any kind of chocolate, ice cream, any deep-fried foods, deep-fried snacks, of course, any breaded foods, anything with coconut oil or palm oil or clarified butter, which is ghee, often used in Indian cooking, mayonnaise, any type of cream sauce going to raise LDL cholesterol. Even tahini paste or tahini sauce going to raise LDL cholesterol. Any creamy salad dressings going to raise LDL cholesterol. And of course butter, and that would include, in case you're having it, butter chicken. So, when I have Indian foods, I'm having chicken vindaloo, chana masala, aloo gobi, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing it correctly, with cabbage and potatoes. The things that don't have the creamy sauces and the butter or ghee or any cheese. Now the thing is, over-ingesting, I know you're moving towards a more vegetarian diet, over-ingesting carbs can actually raise LDL cholesterol as well, but to a modest degree, not to the level that I'm seeing in your case. And this occurs because any carbs that are in excess, the body will convert into fat in the liver and will turn on cholesterol production to transport that fat out of the liver. But normally you don't see cholesterol levels skyrocketing like this from just the overconsumption of carbs. Now, if a medical doctor who sees an LDL cholesterol at 120 in someone that has high blood pressure, who's a bit overweight, not exercising, other high homocysteine, has other risk factors for heart disease, often, they would put that person on a statin drug like Lipitor or Crestor. Statin drugs, what they do is they block the synthesis of cholesterol in the liver. So when you do that, now you don't make as much cholesterol, so there's less LDL cholesterol. But it's also trapping the fat. The fat can't get out of the liver now as easily, so you set the stage for fatty liver degeneration when you go on those medications. And it's the other thing that happens, you get muscle aches and pains, and 1 in 250 people it triggers diabetes, and you're already in a pre-diabetic state right now, so that it could trigger diabetes. It also stops cholesterol production in the brain. The brain makes its own cholesterol for its own signaling purposes, and when you go on those drugs, it blocks cholesterol production in the brain. And so one of the black box warnings on the cholesterol drugs is that it can cause memory loss, and it can. And those drugs also block the production of synthesis of coenzyme Q10 in the body, which can lead to congestive heart failure. So as the first line of treatment to get your LDL cholesterol down, I wouldn't recommend going on a statin drug. If we can't get it down through all other means, then that becomes a backup plan. If a person was showing signs of an LDL cholesterol defect, a genetic defect, then I would insist that they go on a statin drug. So let's talk about the nutrition strategy going forward then regarding saturated fats and trans fats. You want to try to keep those to a minimum. So how do you do that? You substitute with the following foods, some of which you might like and some you don't like, so you pick and choose what you like. But I happen to like the idea of a non-fat Greek yogurt, 0% milk fat, adding a high-fiber cereal to that, or a non-fat milk or almond milk or soy milk. They're all acceptable. You can use cheese as long as the cheese is below 4% milk fat. Not too many cheeses are that low, but some of them do exist. Or you can use cheese alternatives like soy cheeses. And then, of course, skinless chicken breast. Also, like chicken vindaloo and chicken masala. These are two of my favorite dishes, actually. Turkey breast. You can have fish a couple of times a week. Egg whites, but not egg yolks. In one egg yolk, there's already 250 milligrams of cholesterol. If you had 3 eggs, that'd be 750 milligrams of cholesterol. The real experts say you shouldn't have more than 150 to 200 milligrams of cholesterol a day from food. So 1 egg yolk's already at 250. So I don't have egg yolks personally. My LDL cholesterol is super, super low. Beans and peas are great, actually, great substitutes for bread and pasta and rice and potatoes, and they also have a cholesterol lowering effect. Any kinds of beans or peas. If you're going to have rice, bread, pasta, or potatoes, then rice is actually your best choice. And also whey protein shakes. I use a whey protein shake in the morning for breakfast. I add 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed and also 2 teaspoons of creatine. And this formula has also been shown to help bring blood sugar down and better manage diabetes. That's why I'm bringing this to your attention. And we'll see that in sort of video number 2. So then also focus on foods that actually drag cholesterol out of the body and lower cholesterol. It's complicated to explain how they work, but all beans and peas do this. Chickpeas, red kidney beans. This is why I love chana masala, by the way. I try to have it regularly. Or any kind of a bean salad, adding artichoke leaf hearts. Artichoke also helps to lower cholesterol. So I make a bean salad with artichoke leaf hearts and some olive oil and vinegar. And the vinegar helps to lower blood sugar as well. Putting ground flaxseed into yogurt, into a breakfast shake, onto your cereal is also a good idea to drag cholesterol out of your body. Artichoke and artichoke leaf hearts help to flush more bile through the liver, so the liver now will take more LDL cholesterol out of the bloodstream and convert it into bile, so your blood level of LDL goes down. And fruits and vegetables that are high in pectin fiber, like apples and peaches and pears and plums, oranges, grapefruits, carrots, tomatoes. I'm going to send all of this to you in a little report so you don't have to be taking notes here. There are a couple of supplements that can lower cholesterol naturally. I don't recommend that we start with them. I just want you to know we have them in our back pocket. So in the Indian medical system, they use what's called gum google. So there's a tree that grows in India called the mucalmir tree. The resin from that tree has these google sterones, or gum google, that have been shown to increase the liver's extraction of LDL. It takes more LDL cholesterol out of the bloodstream, back into the liver, converts it into bile, ships it through as bile into the intestinal tract, and then through the fecal route you get rid of that bile that used to be cholesterol in your bloodstream. So by taking supplements that contain gum google, and then I like to add artichoke leaf extract. There's a combination that I created for Adiv that has gum google and artichoke leaf extract all in one capsule. That sort of they work synergistically to flush more bile through the system and get that LDL cholesterol out of your body through the fecal route. But we're not going to start there. Let's start with the dietary approach. We can add supplements later. When it comes to foods to cheat with, around pastries and chippy dippy things and frozen desserts and bars, we're going to look at that in video number 2. But the LDL cholesterol story is the beginning of our discussion. In the next video, we'll tackle high blood sugar, getting your body weight down, safe foods to cheat with. And then the video after that, we'll address the high homocysteine and how to get it into the ideal range. So this is all going to sort of dovetail into a no-nonsense, straightforward lifestyle plan that will get all your blood markers into the ideal range for longevity and a healthy life expectancy, improve your body weight, your body shape, and your fitness level, as well as your overall performance and vitality. So hang in, and I'll get back to you with the rest of the story very shortly. Thank you.